What's up, YouTube? So before we get started, on First Take, they're going to be talking about the incident that happened between Russell Westbrook and some fans last night. So let's see what they have to say about that.
Wouldn't suspend him. It does not look good when you threaten a fan, especially when you keep saying, as Jalen Rose pointed out earlier, I promise you and everything you're trying to make.
So as far as that goes, for people that don't know, Westbrook got into it with another fan, and the fan was kind of threatening him, and they would kind of go back and forth, and the fan was going a little bit too far and talking about getting physical, and Westbrook was like, I promise you I will retaliate if you do something to me. So that's what he was saying. He said, I promise you I will react if you do something physical to me. That's what he was saying. So as far as that, I can see Westbrook maybe getting in trouble for saying the acts that he would do. But he was really just responding to what somebody else was saying to him. So, but I can still understand how the league might do something to him because of what he said. So let's keep going.
That threat sound as credible as possible, particularly when you then extend that threat to a female fan.
So it doesn't matter if his wife was there. It doesn't matter if he says something to a female fan, which is the guy's wife. She was talking trash too, so she can get it too. If she can dish out being verbally abusive to Russell Westbrook, but then she should be able to take being verbally abused back too. Now, I don't condone domestic violence or anything like that, but I understand. If she wants to get up in the mix, that's fine. You can get whatever's coming to you too. Whatever you do to me, I will do it to you verbally. Now, when it gets there physically, that's a whole different ball game. But just because she's a woman doesn't mean anything. She's considered just another person, okay? Her and her husband are fans. Don't separate her because she's a woman, like she's special or something. If she wants to run her mouth, she can get it too, verbally. Let's keep going.
And so you're right. I think a fine is probably in order. I would also say that the fan, you're right. Also, it's hard to say what is real and what isn't. If it is true, though, that what he had on social media is what's being reported. And by the way, the fact that he then deletes stuff or makes it private makes you more suspicious, and more you suspect increasingly that it is true.
The fan said what he said to Westbrook, and he sent tweets to Westbrook. Probably something along the lines of some racial slurs or something just very offensive about his family, his wife. He said it. And it's obvious that he erased it because he doesn't want to look like what he is, which is a fool. And then he comes to the game and verbally says it to Westbrook. So he did all of that. He did all of that. And I completely support Westbrook. I just don't want Westbrook to get in trouble. He's worked too hard. He's on such a high level. I'm looking out for his best interest. I don't want him to get in trouble over a stupid fan that means nothing. I'm supporting Westbrook here. So let's keep going on.
Then the fan does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. And what Jalen also said earlier, I think, is right on the money. It should not be on the players to constantly have to point out who's making either racial insults or physical threats to players. And I don't know what a red card is supposed to mean. Get the fan out of there, immediately.
So, exactly. The players should only have to worry about is running onto the court, a football field, or wherever, and playing the game. Finish with the game, get off. That's all they should have to worry about. They shouldn't have to worry about fans heckling them. Of course, people are going to yell. People are going to say things like, you're not as good as this guy. You're not as good as that guy. We don't like you. Welcome to so-and-so place. This is where you're at. But to get, verbally abusive, to make threats of violence, things of that nature, you shouldn't have to stand for that because you don't have to stand for that on the street. You can't just stand there and verbally abuse somebody and say you're going to kill somebody or you're going to do something to their family. You can't do that. You can't do that. So I think more of this is going to land back onto the stadium and the security guards. Security needs to be on it, jump on there, get somebody's being verbally abusive, get in there and throw this fan out. There are no red cards. You don't get a warning. You know what you should or shouldn't be saying. And if you're saying racial slurs, and you're talking about the man's wife, talking about his kids, that's a problem. That's a problem. And you need to be ejected and not given a red card. And I tell you what, the fans are going to make it harder and harder for the people to get closer to the fans because there's going to be a huge barrier between the fans and the players because of things like this. Let's keep going.
There shouldn't be a red card. The fan should be ejected immediately. There's no question about that. and at least banned for an entire season, at the very least. That's number one. Number two, I think that it's important to recognize that there is provocation involved. Like Russell Westbrook didn't just mouth off or sound off going to that degree. I mean, he had to basically correct himself and remind everybody he's never hit a woman, nor would he ever put his hands on a woman. He had to remind it because he said, well, it was caught on video, I'm going to F you up, you and your wife. And so when you're caught on video saying something like that, the NBA has to fine them, and I believe that they will. And here's the biggest reason, Will, I brought this up earlier, why you have to fine them. You have to make sure you provide any kind of cautionary deterrent to make sure that nothing comes close to what transpired when Ron Artest went into the state.
Okay, so before he gets into that, so I understand the NBA does have to probably do something to Westbrook because he did say he was going to F up the fan and his wife. So if something were to happen in the future and Westbrook were to do something, I don't think he would ever would, but if something were to happen like that, I'm pretty sure the NBA or the owners of OKC could be sued because they knew Westbrook has made threats before. Unfortunately, he was caught on tape making this threat to the man and his wife. And if something were to happen and the NBA didn't step in and now he's punished him a little bit, it could lead to a whole nother huge set of lawsuits. So let's continue on with what Stephen A. has to say.
At the Palace in Auburn Hills to cover the NBA at that time the way that I did, to see how it rocked the foundation of the NBA. I cannot say enough because as unfortunate and as incredibly unfair as it may be, you had people that were looking at that incident as an excuse to stigmatize and denigrate an abundance of players, if not practically every black player. And so when you look.
So for those of you guys that don't know or remember, the Indiana Pacers and I think the Detroit Pistons, like maybe almost 10 years ago with Ron Artest and I think, I forgot his name. He had a big afro, plays for Detroit. Great defensive player. I forgot his name. But they got into a brawl and it kind of spilled over into the stands. And then some of the players and the fans got into a fight because one of the fans threw some beer, I think, on Ron Artest. And he got up and it was like, yo, man, what are you doing throwing beer on me? So he got up and, defended himself. And then it just, the brawl ended up in the crowds and the fans were fighting. It was just just a terrible thing, But, I think the NBA wants to take precautions, like what Stephen A. said, to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But in order for that probably to happen, the fans have messed up. The fans, their seating is probably going to be a lot more further away, so you can't make any type of contact with the players. So the fans have really messed it up. So let's keep going.
From that perspective, particularly when you're talking about the Utah Jazz and their fan base, the Mormon state and how they talk to J.R. Smith or they talk to Allen Iverson or they talk to various other dudes because their belief is, and I won't say them, I'm not trying to label all fans or anything like that, but that's a very rabid fan base, and they're incredibly passionate because their basketball team is all that they have. You do have a segment of our populace at various locales in this country who believe you're supposed to look a certain way, present yourself a certain way, and act a certain way. And anything that deviates from that, they view you as a privileged individual who's lucky to be in this position. Because if you weren't in this position, you'd probably be in jail. This is how they talk to these players. This is how they act towards these players. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying most. I'm saying the few idiots and the ignorant ones that do these kind of things. So it gives them a license to come at guys like this and talk to them any kind of way, because it's a reminder to those players, we still believe we're above you, that you're beneath us. You're just fortunate enough to know how to play this game and make this money. Otherwise, you'd be a hoodlum or whatever word you want to use to describe.
So with that said, about the fan base of certain stadiums throughout America, we have it bad here. It's not that there's a problem with fans getting out of control because they're probably drunk and everything that goes along with that. But in other countries, and I've said in other videos, in other countries, soccer players really have it bad. I mean, in other countries, soccer is crazy. As a matter of fact, look up some of these soccer videos where the fans are getting racist. So in America, we have, different states and different cities that play against each other. Might be New York versus Los Angeles, or it's different states and different cities. But for soccer, you have different countries that play against each other. So like I've used in other examples before in other videos, just imagine when Germany plays Nigeria, the type of racial tension that would be there. Or Greece that plays the Congo in soccer. I've heard some of those fans get so racist that they're throwing bananas on the field and calling the black soccer players the N-words and just a whole smorgasbord of things. So it's bad all over the place, but it's even worse in other countries across the globe. So this is a problem that's everywhere. So that was just a little side note, but let's keep going.
That's how they treat these players, and provocation has to play a role because there's so much a player can take.
I'm a little pessimistic, guys, on the NBA's ability to control fan behavior like this. Like, you can ban this singular guy. You can ban this guy if the investigation comes back, and he did say those things. But what you're dealing with is this internal conflict, right? Fans want to heckle players. They should. You should create a home court advantage. You should come after players, but there's obviously a line. And Stephen A., you're pointing out, and by the way, I readily believe you, there's not just one, two, but there are a lot of fans who go way over that line. So how do you stop that? How do you say, we want you to boo and heckle and have a fun time and create a home court advantage, but don't go over this line because there's people.
Okay, so what it is, Mr. Will Kane, is if fans want to get out of control after you've been warned, you've been told, then guess what? Now you have no access to the players. You're going to be 60 feet away from the bench. You're going to be 60 feet away from the field. You have zero access to get to these fans. So whatever you might be saying, that might be racist or whatever, you're talking about a player's family, they'll barely be able to hear you. You have no access to these players because of fans' behavior. And like, I don't mean to keep talking about soccer in other countries, but I heard in other countries that the racism has got so bad with certain country soccer teams that certain soccer teams were banned from playing, I don't know, in the World Cup. I'm not too sure about soccer. I'm not strong in there. But they were banned from participating in the World Cup because fans were getting so rowdy, and the commissioner of, I guess, the soccer league banned them from playing or said you couldn't make a playoff game because their fans were getting too out of control. If that's what it has to be for the NBA or NFL, if it has to go to that point, well, then maybe that's what's going to have to happen. The fans are getting too out of control. You wouldn't want somebody else coming to your job and yelling at you and cussing you out and talking about your family and all that while you're sitting at your desk. Well, then don't do it to Russell Westbrook. Don't do it to Westbrook or the fans or the other players. I'm sorry. Let's keep going.
You know this all over the place who don't see or know lines. And I think the answer is, I don't think the NBA can do much. I actually think these things do it, I think video, shame, putting people out there, showing where they go over the line. I actually think this, in the end, is the biggest deterrent. I don't think the NBA can kick everybody out who goes over the line.
I don't think that's going to be deterrent at all, Mr. Will Kane, because guess what? How many videos can you go on videotape or on YouTube right now and see fans going crazy? You see fans videotaping other fans fighting with each other, throwing beer in each other, getting in fights with other teammates. I mean, with other fans, the other people from other teams. So that's not going to stop. You're not going to shame anybody. If anything, they'll be happy. Look, I got on YouTube. We got in this fight and we were holding it down for our team. Do you see how we were holding it down? Check out our YouTube video. So that's not going to help. You're going to have to push the fans away. Zero access, because you want guys want to act crazy. You're going to pay $100 to get in there and you won't be able to see your favorite player. So let's keep going.
Line.
I think this individual definitely deserves the heavy hand of the NBA. I don't believe a word that he said. He didn't say this. He just told Russell Westbrook to ice his knee. He's lying through his teeth. It's a bogus story. I don't believe it for 1 second. But I also would remind folks of this as well. I was at the Kansas City Chiefs Los Angeles Rams game, and ESPN had the suite in the end zone, ESPN LA, your station, right, the tailgate party, and then after that they had the stuff. This particular fan was in the crowd yelling some of the most ridiculous stuff in the world at me, and he was really getting out of hand to the point where security was going to remove him. And I looked at the guy, said, calm down, be cool, and I told the security, leave him alone. The guy actually looked at me and said, thank you, and calmed down.
Because he realized...
Okay, that's a great story, Stephen A. But another story would be, remember a couple years ago when LeBron James, I think he lost a playoff game or something, and he was walking off the court, and some fan that was about 10 feet away, some lady, she yelled at him. She says, "Hey, LeBron, what does it feel like to be a punk A, B? What does it feel like to be a punk A, B it?" Straight to him. And then he stopped and looked, and then a security guard jumped on it real quick. He's like, hey, woman. Hey. You guys can check out that video. Check out that video and see how LeBron handled it and how quickly security jumped on it. If it happens like that, then there shouldn't be any problems. It goes to security. Security should be taking care of business. Taking care of business. Let's keep going.
The WWE of it all,
exactly.
The wrestling, professional wrestling show of it all has crossed the line, and if he wants to continue to be there, he has to calm down.
But he appreciated the fact that I didn't have him removed because they were going to remove him. And I said, no, he's just drinking. He's at the football game. He's getting wild. And I looked at him and I said, just calm down with the language. And so even though he continued to heckle me, it was all in good fun. But unfortunately, there are some instances with fans you can't talk to like that. And they're very violent, they're very vicious because they bring their hate.
Of course.
To
And also sometimes people are drinking and that kind of thing. One thing, Stephen A., because you're at a lot of games, I mean, Max also, Wayne and Will. But if they're going to start ejecting fans based on this behavior, is there enough security in the arena right now to even do that?
I don't think this.
Oh, you make sure there's enough security in that stadium. Are you kidding me? So I'm supposed to sit here and take abuse from fans because you don't have enough security? How much money is this stadium making? How much money is the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball? How much money do they make? It's $1 billion a year company. And you guys can't afford security? You guys can't afford maybe 1,000 security guards? That are probably making, I don't know what, $15 an hour, $10. You guys can't afford that? And this is a $1 billion a year company? How much money you got to make off this game alone? So I don't want to hear like it's going to be an issue to get security guards. You get all the security that's needed. I don't want to be touched. I don't need anybody heckling me, talking about my wife. Are you kidding me? Get security down here before there's a real problem. Let's keep going.
Enough security to eject in abundance, but I do think that you can rely on the decency and the soul of most people in this country where they see, all right.